Hello guys, this video is going to teach you about the fundamentals of CSS and how you can use it to style your HTML elements. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and we are going to see the importance of using CSS in web development in this video. So this is a website, a popular website known as LinkedIn, and you can see it has beautiful layouts, it has buttons, it has different colors, it has images well positioned. There's an image beside an input box, and when I click that, you can see we have a pop-up, and then we have another image here. This cancel button is positioned rightly. You can see we have red colors for this. So this is made possible using CSS. And let's see how this website looks without any CSS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off all the stylings for this website, this particular page. So you can see now that everything is turned off and we are only seeing bunch of texts. And then when we scroll down long, we are still seeing bunch of text, and then we can see some images and videos of copy, then my profile pictures, and then another video. You can see like everything is now like visually appealing as it was before. We turn off the CSS. So that is like the power of CSS. You can see that we only have a bunch of text. It is not well laid out. We don't know which post has these likes, and then you can see we only have media player modal. Like everything is just like going wrong. And then we can see the seal of Vassell. Of course, the video is just playing without us like even playing it, but it's not well positioned. Like the play, the pause, the playback are not like well positioned and things like that. So that's like the power of CSS. When we turn it off, everything just scattered and is not visually appealing. So let's go back and turn it on back. So once it is turned on, you can see like everything is back. Like we know which video and the likes and comments, we can see them like that. And when we turn it off again, you can see the difference. Like it's not really nice. So that's the power of CSS. So a website without a CSS is not going to be friendly. If it is well laid out, like maybe you just have a bunch of links that is just like one after the other. But if you want to build a user-centric website that you want people to visit and to convert into sales and more customers, you have to put in more effort into your CSS. So that's basically it for a website with CSS and a website without CSS. So let's get into writing code and getting you started into writing your own CSS. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to create a new folder. So basically here we just create a new folder. We can just name it as CSS Playground, and then we can open it with our VS Code. So if you're on Windows, you can see open with, then you see VS Code, and if you are on Mac, you can drag and drop into VS Code or just go to quick actions and then open a VS Code like this. Mine is open here, so I'll just drag it here. So basically, we now have our CSS Playground in our VS Code. So you can see it at the top here, CSS Playground. So the first thing we want to do is to create an HTML element. So a CSS is nothing without an HTML file, because you need an HTML to display content on the browser. So basically, you cannot do anything, without an HTML file. You cannot do anything with CSS without an HTML file. So what we want to do is just to create a new file and name it as index.html. So in our previous video, you already know the concept about like using index. You could use any other name for your file, but index is just like the entry point for your project. When when you come to Nigeria now, the entry point is the airport. So basically, you have to, from international travel, you have to land in the airport. So from the airport, then you find your way. So that's basically what index.html is all about. So now that we have index.html, let's bring out our boilerplate. So our boilerplate, is not new from the previous video. So just press shift exclamation, and then you have this bunch of code. So let's get straight into creating a tag, and then we do hello world, hello world. So this is an h1 tag, and then we name it as hello world. So the next thing we want to do is just to open it on our live server. So just click on go live, and then it's going to open on our browser. So you can see now that we have this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the code and the browser side by side so that we can see them at once. The next thing we want to do now is we want to introduce CSS into our project. Let me close this. We already have hello world being showed here, and it is just black. So how do we style this? So there are different ways in which we can actually style our HTML documents using CSS. There are different methods. So we have three methods, and the first method is the inline method. So we have the inline method, and then we also have the internal method, and we have the external method. And we are going to be seeing examples of the three in this video as well. So the first method is inline method, and inline method is basically like you are writing your CSS inline with your HTML code. Yeah, so basically inline is just like you coming here and then writing your CSS in this tag. So if you remember when we talked about the HTML attributes, we discussed like HTML tags have some common attributes, like they can use an ID, they can use class, and also one of these attributes is style. So basically the style is a way to write CSS as an inline within our HTML tag. So basically I can change the color of this to be red, and if I hit save, you can see now that this is red. So this is basically how to write an inline CSS in HTML. So this does not require us to create a separate file. It is just going to be within the tag, and that is what an inline CSS is all about. So inline CSS, we can come here and do, this is an inline CSS. So this is inline CSS. So let's go ahead and then talk about the internal CSS. So internal CSS now basically like inline method, but we are going to write it inside the head tag. So the head tag is basically where we keep informations about the web page, just like what we discussed in the HTML class. The head tag is not going to be shown on the browser, because you can see document here is not shown within the browser, but on the browser tab here, document. So because if I change this to playground, if I change it to CSS playground, you can see that it's changed here but not here. So we can then write our style within the head tag, and it is known as internal tag. So I can come here and do internal tag, and then I can do my style tag. So to make use of the internal method, we are required to make use of the style tag. So this style tag is basically where we can write our style, so that we can make reference to HTML element, and then we can style them here in the internal method. So what we are going to do now is we are just going to have an h2 tag, and then we are going to do welcome to my website. So welcome to my website is being shown here. So the next thing we are going to do is to use internal method to style the h2 tag. So to style the h2 tag now, we are going to call the h2 tag. We will say h2 tag, and then we are going to open curly brackets like this, and then we are going to specify the property color. Everybody has a property. Even as human being, we have a property. We have the skin color property. My skin color is kind of like brown. We have some people that are white. We have some people that are yellow. So depending on the property, we have a property of like maybe height as well. We have the property of like our weight. So we have different kind of like properties. Like hair color. I can dye my hair color. So it's just like property hair dye to blue or brown. So likewise, the HTML tags, take a look at the properties that they have, and then you can style it. So that's basically it. And then there are some tags that you cannot actually style like every other tags. The properties of a female is different from the property of a male. So you should also have that in mind. Like there are some properties that you can use for some tags, but you cannot use for some other tags. So just have that at the back of your mind. So now for this color, now we can change it to yellow, and then this is changed to yellow. Let me change this to orange so that it can be visible. So we have red inline, and then we have the orange for internal. So this is basically the syntax for writing internal CSS method. Open the style tag, and then you make reference to the tag name or its identifier, and then we can now specify the property and the value. So the next thing we are going to look into now is the external method. We've already discussed about the internal method, which is the external method, and lastly the external method. So for the external method is basically more similar to the internal method, to the syntax of the internal method, except that we will not require this style tag. And then the external method, just like the name, it is external. So basically it is going to be coming from a different file. We are not going to be writing it within our HTML file. It's going to be coming from an external file. So what we are going to do is to head to our file explorer and then create a new file. As we can name this as index.css, or any name. You can name it anything. It's not necessary that you have an index.css, just like the concept that we know about index.html. You can name it anything actually, but just to keep things consistent, this is our index.css, which means like this is for this HTML. So now that we've created this file, the next thing we want to do is to connect this file to our HTML file. We need to connect our CSS file to our HTML file before it can actually function. Let's say, for instance, now we have our h3 tag and we say, what is your name? So what is your name? So now if you want to style it using the external method, let me come here and put it here. External method, if you do h3 and then do color pink and hit save, you can see like the color did not change. The color did not change because this file is not connected into the HTML file. It's supposed to be connected first for the code that we specified here to work with the HTML file. So how do we connect our external CSS file to our HTML file? To connect this, we make use of the link tag. So basically, the link tag allows us to link to another resources, because our index.css is a resource. So basically, we make use of the link tag. So we can just type link. So you can see we have CSS, we have favicon, and other things that we can link to. But we are going to select for the link. So the link tag, we can use it to link our style.css. You can see, so we are only going to just change this to index.css. So we could just do control spacebar, and then we can see the file that we have in the directory. So we are going to select index.css. So, and then we have a relationship attribute for the link. So it's telling us like what is the relationship between this href, what we are linking to this page. So we say it is a style sheet. So this is going to like help the browser to like understand what kind of like resources you are linking and then do some things with it properly. So this is how it's supposed to look like, and then we can hit save. So, and when I hit save, you should notice that this changed to pink from black to pink. So if you come here now, we can see like we specified pink for the h3 tag. So let's go back to our HTML file and comment out this. If I comment this out, you can see like it is back to being black by default. And then if I comment it out, it is back to being pink. So let's use hot pink so that it can be more visible. So we have hot pink, and then you can see now. So we've been able to like see a quick example of what is possible with CSS and how to connect your CSS with your HTML file. So the first thing that we did was to make use of the inline method. So basically, the inline method is a way of writing CSS within our HTML tag, and the external method is a way of writing CSS within our HTML file, but not within the HTML tag itself, but within our HTML file in the head tag. And it is always advisable to like always put the style when you are working with internal method, to put it in the head, because our browser is going to read our file from top to the bottom. Yeah. So if you put your style at the bottom here, it will still work, but when you have a robust application and then you have a lot of styles at the bottom, it might be difficult to load all the style perfectly for some users where they have like maybe like slow network. So basically, so and yeah, so that's what we have for the internal method. And for the external method, what we have to do is to create the file. After creating the file, we now style our HTML attribute, which is like the h3, the tag name. We give it a property, and then we give it a color name. And after that, what we have specified for the h3 now reflects on our browser. So that's basically it. So the next thing we are going to be looking into now is how do we write other attributes. So if we can give it a color, how do we now give it a background color? So to give it a background color using the inline method, we are still going to continue inline as well, not like having to create a new attribute like style and then specify background. No, what we need to do is just to do background color, and then we can name these as, let's use black. So if I hit save, so you can see black here. So this is black background with red color. So that's basically the way to write multiple styles in inline. So to write multiple style in internal, we just do background here as well. We can do this as black too. Is blue okay? Okay, blue is fine. Let's use blue. And then for external, we can come here. What goes well with hot pink? Should we use indigo? Okay, indigo is fine. So now we use the same property. One thing you should observe is like we are using the same property but different methods. Over here we have the color, we have the color here too, we have background color, we have background color here too. We also have color and background color here too. So whatever methods that you choose, you are still going to be using the same property and the same value, and it's still going to work. So whatever you choose doesn't change the effect of the property that you want to update. But now I am sure most of you will be like, okay, which one is the best? Why do we have inline? Why do we have internal? Why do we have external? So I can't categorically say that inline is the best or internal is the best or external is the best. It all boils down to your requirement and what you need to do. and it also depends on the pattern that you are following. So it is not a battle between which one is the best or which one is more efficient. So whichever you use doesn't slow down your application. But then there's something we call developer experience. How do other developer find your code? Like, is it easier to read? Is it easier to work with? Is it easier to maintain? So that is another aspect to look at it. But when it comes to like performance, it doesn't have any side effect, any major side effect for you when you use any of these three methods. But then let's look at it in a realistic way. So starting from internal, let's say we want to add more properties. Let's say we want to add height, let's say 100 px. We want to add width, 100 px. Let's say we want to add border, 2 px, solid, and then we also want to, let's give it a color of red. Let's say we want to give it a let's say first and see. So you can see what we have. So you can see how it continues like this. So let's do the same thing for others like height, width, and border. So if I copy the same thing here and I copy the same thing here as well. So you can see like it works the same way, like the internal works, the external work, the inline work as well. But then let's look at it like, what if we are going to be having about like 20 lines of code? So are we going to like continue to make use of this same line just for a single tag? And at the end of the day, let's see, let me copy paste this. So our style is now going to be this long, making our HTML code to be longer. So this, you can already see the problem with this, like it makes our HTML code longer. CSS is making our HTML code longer. So why is CSS affecting the experience we are having with our HTML file? So you can say like that is a developer problem. It is not the website performance problem. It is us, like this code base is too long to work with because of CSS. So this is the problem with inline, and it is not easy to maintain in the sense like you have to be going like inline going. If you want to write another code now, you copy this. Just imagine like we have the same style here and here. So this is already like getting to like 63. So just imagine like we have the same size of CSS here and here. It's going to become more longer. So that's basically the downside of using inline CSS. So let's take a look at the one for internal. So the same thing, if we are going to have it here, is still going to take the same line of code as this internal if you format it, because most of the time it will be inline. Sorry about that. It's going to be inline like this. So if you have a formatter, it is going to work for you. But if you don't have a formatter, everything is just going to be on a straight line, and it's not going to be easier to work with. Yeah, so that's basically like another way to look at it. So if you have a formatter, it might be easier to be formatted, but if you don't have a formatter, it's not going to be easier to work with. So the advantage of internal over inline is like we don't have our style inside of our HTML tag, but instead we have it in the head, which means like it is separated, separation of concerns. Like the HTML is separate and then the CSS is separate, but in the same file, not within the HTML. So when we want to deal with HTML, we can just like go into the body and then move our HTML around without bothering about long lines of the styles that are there. And with internal, we just know that we have to go to the head to create new styles. So that's like the advantage of internal over inline CSS. So moving on to the external, you already know that external will be way much easier to work with because CSS is not going to be bothering us in the HTML file, and HTML is not going to be bothering us in the CSS file because they are both separated. They are not in the same file, they are both separated. So depending on what you want to work with, you might go with inline CSS if you only have one or two properties to update, or you go for internal CSS, or you go for external CSS. So whatever you choose, just have it in mind that you want your code to be readable by other developers and easier to work with. So with that, you can choose whatever you want or like for your own project. And as time goes on, you are going to know why you shouldn't use internal, or why you shouldn't use inline, or why you should stick with a particular method. So that's basically it. But feel free to try out any of these, and anyone you have difficulty with, that's a sign that it might not be the best use case for what you're working on. So let's move on. Now that we've shown an example of how to style inline, internal, and external, what if we style the same element using the inline method, the internal method, and the external method? Which one do you think is going to appear? So basically, let's have an example of I am a paragraph. So we want to style this inline. So we are going to have inline to have color of green, and it's safe. So this is going to have green, and then let's increase the font size to be 30px so that it can be big. Or let me move it to the top since it is the one we are currently working on. So I am a paragraph. So we can now come here after the curly bracket inside style and do p tag color. Let's do brown. So when we change it to brown, you can see what is happening. We didn't see anything brown. And then when we come here, external, and do color, what other color do we have? Let's see. Let's use cadet blue. So you can see now that we still have our green. We style it with external to be cadet blue, but it's still showing green. We style it with internal to be brown, but still showing green, but the green is coming from our inline. So what if we remove this? You can see now that when we remove it from inline, it takes the color of the internal, which is brown. And when we comment out the internal, then it takes the color of the external. So what is happening here is precedence. So precedence in CSS is a big deal, and it is something you should be aware of. So precedence is basically like someone gives you an instruction based on their rank. So, and definitely when a junior officer gives you a command and another senior officer gives you a command, which one are you going to listen to? You are definitely going to listen to the higher ranked officer, because the higher ranked officer supersedes you and the other officer that is giving you command. So, which means like you are going to take order from the officer that has higher rank. So in this instance, the inline is more closer to the element, so it's going to take precedence. And when the inline is not available, the internal method will take precedence over the external method, because inline method is actually within the tag, so it is closer. So when CSS is reading the file, say from up to bottom, it's going to come here, check what is the property style. It is cadet blue. It's going to apply it, but we won't see it. And then when it gets to style, in internal style, it's going to now see brand, it's going to change it, but we won't see it. And then when it now gets to the body, it see another style as green like this, then it's now going to apply the green as the last color. So that's basically what is happening here. And there's a way in which you can actually override this. So you can check out CSS specificity on how to make use of importance. Say for instance, now you can put important here and brand is going to show because you want this to have precedence over any other property. So, or you can come here in the external and place important here. But it is not always advisable to make use of important, because why do you want to style your element 3 times? You don't want to style it here and come here and style it and also come here and style it. So you only want to just like keep to just one style. So that's basically one thing there. But there are some cases where you want to like change the style of an element. Maybe you are working with some external files that you don't have control over, or you want to change the color when something happens. So there are some cases like that, but then you will learn and discover them as you work more on your CSS skills. So the next thing we are going to be looking at, which is also the last thing we are going to discuss about, is different ways of styling elements using their attribute. Because what we've been doing since is styling them by their tag name. You know, we are using tag name here, we are also using tag name here. So what if we have more than one h1 tag or more than one p tag, and then we want to give them different colors? So let's say for instance now we have this h4 tag. We say I am a blue fan, and let's make another copy, and this one says I am a green fan, and this one says I am a pink fan. So basically this is supposed to be blue, this is supposed to be green, and this is supposed to be pink. So we are going to be making use of the external method now going forward. So that's what I preferred for the tutorial. So now if you come here now and do h4 and then do color to be blue, so that is what we want for the first h4 tag, but that's not what we want for the second h1 tag, and that is not what we want for the pink tag as well. So how do we now specify, like for this particular h4 tag, we want it to be blue, we want the other one to be green, and we want the other one to be pink? So to achieve this, that's where we make use of the unique identifier, which we discussed in our previous video. So you know, we discussed about identifiers like the ID and then the class. So this is where we are going to be making use of the class and the ID attributes. So for this tag now, we can now say we can give it an ID of, let's say, blue, or better say, let's leave the first one and then give the second one a uh, green ID, and then we can give this one a class of pink. So what we can now do is to come here and do an ID. So to style an ID in CSS, you know, we've been making use of p tag and h4 tag and h3 tags. So the tags in, we just write them and then style them. But for the ID, we are going to append an hash symbol to it. So we are going to have hash and then do green for an ID, and then we can now do a color of green. So when we hit save, you can see now this has changed to green because we have given it a unique identifier to be green, and that is what we've actually called here. So basically, a lot of us can be bearing somewhere in a class or in a meeting. So when they call somewhere, someone bearing somewhere's attention, we be drawn to the person. But if every one of us have a unique name, like me, I haven't met someone bearing Uncle Big Bear. So if someone comes into a meeting and says Uncle Big Bay, even if you are bearing somewhere with me, you will not answer because your nickname is not Uncle Big Bay. So that's basically what is happening here. So we have four h4 tags. We have different h4 tags here, and then two of them have different name like unique identifier. So when they call h4, yeah, all of them will answer. But then if they call their unique identifier, only that person is going to answer, and that's basically what is happening here. So for class, instead of using hash, we use the dot symbol and then we write whatever we want. So we have pink here. So this is used for class and this is used for an ID. So here now we can do color of pink. So, and as you can see now, we have blue, green, and pink. So that's basically how you can style your HTML element by tag name, by ID, or by class name. So that's basically it. So there are other ways in which you can also like reference an HTML element in CSS in an advanced way, but this is majorly what you need now to build whatever you want to start building and to upscale your CSS skill. So let me do a walkthrough of what we've done so far. So we've discussed about CSS, and CSS stands for cascading style sheets, which means like a waterfall. So it trades from top to bottom, and whatever is at the bottom will take precedence over whatever is at the top. Just like what we discussed here, like external we take internal we take precedence over external, and inline we take precedence over internal. And there are different method of writing CSS. So CSS can be used internally like this using the style tag, and it can be used inline like this, and we can also use it as an external which is like writing our CSS in a different file and then connecting it using the link with a relationship of style sheet. So cascading style sheet, so that's the style sheet that we are writing here. So, and the ways in which we can reference HTML elements in CSS is either by the tag name or by an ID or by a class name. And to reference a tag by its name, you just specify the tag name with curly brackets and then you specify the property. And for an ID, you just make use of hash. So we have an ID here, you make use of hash followed by the unique name, and then we have for the class, so you just write dot. So we use dot for class and we use hash for an ID. So that's basically the introduction to CSS and how you can get started with CSS. So the big question now is, how do you know all of CSS properties? How do I know whether I can use a particular property, or how do I even find out all the properties that are available in CSS? That is where Google comes in, and life is much easier for developers now. There are ChatGPT as well, so you do your research on what you want to what you want to achieve, and then you can search online. And another thing I'm going to advise is like you can take a look at most of the website that you are using on a daily basis. If you find something there, you can let us know in the community, and then we'll tell you the property that you can use, or you can ask ChatGPT or go online to say, how do I make a button round, that's border radius, or how do I make a button that is square, or how do I make a button that doesn't have a border, or how do I make a text that has a shadow that is duplicated, things like that. So that's how to learn, because you cannot actually learn everything in a single video. So whatever you come across and you would like to be able to know how it works, you can reach out to the community or do a research on it, and that is how you grow and learn much better. So an assignment is going to be attached to this video, so endeavor to check it out, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye bye.